Thanks for tuning in to Retiring Well. We've got a great show lined up talking about health insurance and all the different statistics that come along with that. And there's some pretty alarming ones you want to be paying attention to. We'll talk through a set of possible outcomes. So are you planning? Do you have all of your retirement plan lined up? And what are some different outcomes that you might experience? Along with that, money market accounts. There's a record amount set aside in cash, savings, money market right now. Is that the best plan for you? And lastly, thriving in retirement. You want to have a successful retirement. So stay tuned as we've got all this and a whole lot more coming up right here, right now on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well. Plan to retire well.
Welcome to Coffee Talk. So Art and I go back all the way here in Traverse City to kindergarten, and so we've been having conversations not necessarily involving coffee. We weren't doing that at 5, 6 years old, but so we've been friends for a number of years and everything, and now obviously business partners here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, and it stirs up a lot of conversations that we have along with our advisory team, just in regards to what's happening out there in the financial world, and specifically when looking at retirement. And one of those key areas that draws a lot of attention, I don't think people really fully understand, is health insurance, both leading up to retirement and then as well as in retirement. And there's some really, I'd say, sort of scary statistics when it comes to that. And I know, Art, you had one that sort of caught our attention pretty significantly.
Absolutely. When you think of cost in retirement, a lot of people, what's that big thing that you need to be concerned about? What are those expenses? And a lot of course, living expenses, right? Having a place to live and taxes and all those things come up. And there's a big piece of healthcare. As we age, that cost of healthcare, what is the likelihood I'm going to need some form of care, whether it's surgeries or you have some sort of cancer or any of those things come up? Well, you're going to want to have insurance in place for that, right? So recently, Fidelity did a study, and they talked about how an average couple from 65 and beyond in their life is going to spend around $315,000 on their health care and the remainder of their life.
Yeah, and that's where you don't really think about health insurance or think about the costs involved, but over $300,000, that's pretty significant. And that's looking at those folks that are, prior to age 65 and then even beyond when they get into Medicare and what's actually coming out of their pockets over retirement.
Absolutely. So for a lot of us out there, pre-retirement and retirement, how do you protect yourself against that, right? Just like car insurance, right? How do you protect yourself, from having that accident, not from having the accident, but the cost incurring from that accident, right? So you buy insurance. It's no different with health insurance. You want to have some form of health insurance. And so when we look at how do we help ourselves from having a $315,000 bill or more potentially, is looking at the different forms of that. Now, specifically for the rest of this segment here, let's talk about pre-65. So somebody retiring before they get to 65. And the key there, John, right, is they're not going to be on Medicare. They're going to have to go on the marketplace.
Correct, yeah.
So when that is, if you don't already know about this is the part, so let's go away from this scary statistic for a second and talk about what that looks like from a cost perspective and how to best position your retirement plan for that. We met a couple about 3 years ago here. They had been watching the television show for many years. They lived down in the Manistee area, and they called in and sat down with John and I about 3 years ago. They were still working. They were in their very early 60s at that point, and they were looking to retire before 65. And so we started to institute this plan with them, as looking at this, what is healthcare going to cost you, the insurance portion of that. And we learned that with their pension, Social Security, and the IRA distributions they would like to take to meet that living, they were not going to get much of a subsidy to help with their insurance cost. So what that did is their health insurance premiums were about $1,500 a month. That's a pretty big hit too for a retirement budget. So what we were able to start doing, though, is they had a little room left in their tax bracket every year right now, that we were able to set aside some non-qualified money Now those first 2 years of retirement, they're going to draw from non-taxable sources. Their taxable income drops, and now they have a much bigger subsidy. Now that health insurance has dropped down to only $400 a month.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, so when you're thinking about this marketplace insurance, and if you're contemplating retiring prior to 65, there's different things that, as Art alluded to, there are steps that you can be taking years in advance to sort of prepare yourself for that time frame. And so again, it's one where you don't want to wait till, hey, I'm retiring tomorrow, what do I do next? It's one where, again, here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, our objective is to help you plan to retire well. And part of that comes into not just the health insurance aspect, but as Art alluded to, the tax planning side of things of, okay, how do we start taking some taxable dollars, shifting them to after-tax dollars to then be able to best utilize those to maximize the amount of health insurance subsidies that might be available to you. So if that's you or you're considering that, please give us a call here.
I'm Brittany Trout, the Development Coordinator at Habitat for Humanity Grand Traverse Region. And right now we are working on our New Waves project here in Leelanau County. We encompass 2 other counties as well as the Grand Traverse region, which is Kalkaska and Grand Traverse. As you can see, we're on the construction site, and Habitat not only has volunteer opportunities and community partners for the construction side, but also for our restore side. If you're ever interested in getting involved from being a community organization, a church, or an individual, feel free to reach out to us. But I specifically want to tell you about who we have here with us today. We have Centennial Wealth Advisory on site today to help volunteer as a community partner. They are donating their time and having their team out here to help us lay flooring. Currently, the houses we're working on are in their final stages with getting the flooring and then having appliances and countertops installed. As we move on, at this site we hope to have 6 to 7 houses come 2025, and then later on we'll be able to come back to this site and build more homes. Habitat is really well known in the community, and we work together with our friends to give them the chance to have affordable housing. We have homeowners who are not only families, individuals, but they encompass all of that. They can be an individual, a young partner together, or an elderly couple. We accept anyone with meeting in the criteria. We wanted to thank Centennial Wealth Advisory for coming out today, and we hope to have them back in the future.
Hey, I'm super excited about this segment, the set of possible outcomes. You know, when I was reflecting on some of my teaching days, I used to teach personal finance, Algebra 2, and AP Calculus. And in AP Calculus, we spent a lot of time figuring out what inputs would give us a particular maximum output of a function. Or, hey, what input do we need to maybe avoid because that will give us an output that's an absolute minimum, something that we don't want. And so the outcomes were determined by the income inputs that you put in there. And so then as I teach personal finance and then have transitioned into this mission in my life of helping helping people and coaching people through life's biggest decisions, I saw a lot of overlap. And so what I'd like to share with you today is some filters that you might want to run through your potential inputs. So what I see is that people will come into our office, let's say Cadillac, Traverse City, they might be from Big Rapids, Manistee, kind of all over northern Michigan. And they'll just start talking through where they're at. And what we find a lot of times are people that are just full of fear. They're just grabbing onto that fear. And then through education and through learning and coaching, you can see them slowly kind of open up and let that fear go away. And that's a powerful thing. So here's what I'd like to help you potentially do. Let that fear go away. Let that fear fly away. Okay, so what are some potential inputs that we see? Well, people want to know, what if I change my job? Maybe make a little bit better income job. What if I lose my job? What if I want to retire? That's a big question we answer a lot. What happens if I need to go into a long-term care situation? What happens if I pass away? What happens if my spouse passes away? What happens if I hit every single thing on my bucket list? These are the kind of inputs that are fun to strategize on. Okay, so here's your filter that I think you should run these potential inputs through so that you could see where the outputs are and then what you might want to do about that. Okay, so the first thing is income. You can't have retirement without income. And so when it comes to income, you want to know your numbers. What is your contractual lifetime income? So that might be Social Security, pension, maybe an income annuity. So figure out those numbers. And then you look at what your expenses are. Give, save, live, okay? And know what those are. Differentiate between the wants and the needs and just try to articulate a number there. Then when you take your income minus your expenses, you're going to know your cash flow. If your cash flow is negative because you're spending more, well, where are you going to get that money from? A lot of times people go to their retirement savings. So when they do that, we want to take how much they're taking out of their retirement accounts, divide it by their portfolio, and that'll give us a withdrawal rate. Because the biggest concern a lot of people have and why it matters to you is, am I going to run out of money? And so by figuring out your withdrawal rate from your cash flow, you can know, the probability of that. Okay, the second thing is when it comes to investments, I think you should just simply calculate how much money you have in no market risk, how much money you have in market risk. And by market risk, I would say bond market, stock market, those would be easy numbers to calculate. Just put the two numbers side by side, because then at the end of the day, you could just say, this is how much I have in no market risk, and this is how much I have in market risk, and that could give you a good idea of your risk profile. Are you taking too much risk? Are you not taking enough risk? But at the end of the day, are you taking calculated risk? That's where here at Centennial Wealth, we get to help absolutely give you a number if you want, from 1 to 100 on what your risk score of your portfolio is. It's an awesome little tool that we use. The next thing is going to be your tax diversification. Add up how much do you have in tax-free accounts. These are going to be the Roth IRAs, the Roth 401ks, and some life insurance. Then you look at the tax-deferred account totals. That's going to be your 401ks, 403bs, simple IRAs, that such, traditional IRAs. And then in your taxable accounts. So these would be like non-qualified accounts, savings accounts, stuff like that. That'll just give you a quick picture of how tax diversified you are. What happens if you pass away, right? Look at your tax diversification on what's going to happen and what the outcome might be. Then the next one would be your health care, okay? What years are you going to be on Medicare? What years might you be on marketplace health insurance, if any? And then what years might your employer give you health insurance? And by doing that, you got to get a little time frame of your health plan, and then you can also look for any kind of IRMA risk or long-term care needs. And then finally, what's your estate plan? How many of your assets are likely to go through probate, and how many are going to be avoided by probate by just doing some simple estate planning? And so those are all really actionable items. We help with this all the time. I hope that filter, that graphic, you can see, the different filters that you want to run through. But then the last one, I think, is probably the most important, and it's your legacy. How close to your life's mission are you hitting, your purpose, right? And what gets in the way? I think a lot of times distractions do. And so maybe take a time to reflect, go through this. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. I hope you have a great day.
Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well. The success of your retirement depends on a solid financial plan. If you are retired or nearing retirement, we invite you to an informative live event to help you plan to retire well. Our presentation will address important questions such as what tax changes are coming in 2025? How will the new administration impact your retirement? How will the Fed impact your retirement portfolio? Are you worried about outliving your retirement savings? How can you maximize your Social Security benefits? And much more. Call 888-608-5825 or register online and choose the date and location that works best for you. The live event starts at 6:30 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. Call 888-608-5825 or register online to reserve your seats today.
Investors have over $6 trillion sitting on the sidelines in cash, according to an Invesco report. That's a ton of cash, right? And rightfully so. Over the last few years, we've seen the Fed increase interest rates, and so those money market accounts, those high yield savings accounts, they've been paying a decent rate of return. And so if you're one of those more conservative investors and you really don't want to take on that market risk, it's kind of been a no-brainer to have all that cash sitting there on the sidelines. But now, interest rates, as of last fall in 2024, rates are starting to come down. So do we have too much cash sitting on the sidelines? And how do we go about getting that cash, if we want to, invested in the market? And that's kind of what I want to talk with you about today. I am a big believer in having some cash in your portfolio. In fact, I recommend it. So for my clients, I do recommend that you have at least 6 to 12 months of expenses saved in cash for those, life happens type of situations. So that's at the very bare minimum. But also what I've found in the Gaylord office very frequently is with clients that are approaching retirement, maybe they're 1, 2, 3 years out from retirement, they oftentimes have some short-term goals where hey, they want to make a big purchase when they retire, whether it's a tractor or a new truck or maybe putting up a pole barn or something like that. And if that's the case, if you have a short-term goal to make a big purchase maybe within the next 3 years, having cash set aside for that purchase is also a wise decision. However, if you add up that cash for the big purchase in the near future, plus those 12 months of expenses, and you still have excess cash available, that's the cash that we're talking about here that you might want to get off the sidelines and put to work for you in some other investment. And I hear it all the time from clients like, well, is now the right time to do that? How do I time this? Should I do it now? Should I wait? And timing the market is one of the most difficult things to do. Nobody's going to do it perfectly every time. But there's a lot of interesting stats that are out there. And I'm going to bring up a chart here on the screen. It's from Invesco. And basically what they're outlining here is that they're going back and looking at historical returns on the S&P based on different scenarios, investment scenarios, over the last 30 years with 10-year increments or intervals. And I found it fascinating because it outlines if you were to time the market perfectly, what your returns would be. If you were to do a little dollar cost averaging strategy, what those returns would be. And then also if you were to invest the funds at the first of the year, what those returns would be. And then finally, just if you terribly timed the market, like the worst case scenario for timing, what those returns would be. And then this chart is comparing it to if you just left your money alone in cash and did nothing. And you can see here, based on those specific time periods, if you just had your money sitting in cash, the return doesn't even come close to the worst case scenario if you would have invested your funds in the S&P 500 and had terrible timing. Okay, and of course the other strategies, dollar cost averaging and investing the first of the year, those even yielded higher results than if you just left your cash alone. So, you know, there's a prime example. History, of course, doesn't have to guarantee future results, but that's a great example of a way to get the cash in the market. And of course, you know, us investors, you know, we're not all the same, and maybe putting your money all into the stock market, probably not the wisest thing to do. Maybe there's other conservative investments that are out there, and that brings up the bond piece of the puzzle, right? Here's another chart here outlining bond returns. You know, going back, looking at historical results when the Fed has reached that peak in the rate cycle and started to decrease rates, you can see here that these 4 different bond indexes, they all averaged a return of 5% or greater in the cycle that we're kind of in right now. Of course, again, history is no predictor of future results, but there's another conservative avenue that you could get that cash working for you and potentially yield a higher result than just sitting in money market accounts. You know, I'm a big fan of that old saying, keep the powder dry. But you don't want to keep too much of that powder dry where you can't shoot for those long-term goals in retirement. So if you have questions on what to do with your cash, or if you have too much cash in your portfolio, please don't hesitate to give us a call.
Finding a reputable business shouldn't require luck or chance. But how can you tell who you can trust? Pro tip: the BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better check with the BBB first, because better businesses are honest and commit to high ethical standards bureau. That's why they're better. Always look for the sign of a better business and find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
What I want to share with you today is the connection between financial wellness and physical and emotional health. And I want to draw that to you through a few statistics, and then I'm going to talk to you about solutions. So I don't want to just list the problem, but I also share with you possible solutions for you. So this is from a MarketWatch guide survey of 2,000 Americans. So I'll read some of this really quick, and then like I said, I'll talk to you about possible options for you to have peace of mind through this. So 65% say finances are their biggest source of stress. Number 2, 41% agreed that my finances have destroyed my mental health. That's a pretty big statement. Number 3, 57% said they must choose between prioritizing their finances or their mental health. 4, 92% reported negative physical effects due to their financial stress. Number 5, 56% reported losing sleep because of financial stress. Number 6, 45% reported headaches due to financial stress. And number 7, 38% complained of fluctuations in weight because of the financial stress. So as you can see from these survey results, there's a lot of worry and stress out there, and it's connected not only to their physical but their mental health due to their finances. This is something that a lot of people are worried about and having to deal with, and you might be one of them as well. However, here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we've helped thousands of clients and people all over northern Michigan work through these stresses. Our goal is to move you from a point of fear and stress to a point of peace of mind. And we have the tools and the ability to provide you with the solutions that can help you do that. So we'd be more than happy to meet with you. And throughout this series, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what are the issues as far as impacting me that are causing me to not be financially well. We're going to have some fun with that and correlate that to your physical and emotional health. But the key thing is we want to move you from a place of fear and concern and worry to a place of peace of mind. Whether you're in retirement or still years away from retirement, have you taken the time to think through what you want to do during your retirement years? At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we want you to be able to thrive in retirement, and I'm sure you want the same thing as well. Thriving in retirement looks different for everyone. Some people want to be snowbirds. They want to head to Florida and escape the Michigan winters. Other people love to travel, so they want to, whether that's traveling around the country, traveling to visit family, or going overseas. You know, travel is this thing that they're really focused on. For other people, they would rather stick around here and do things that they enjoy in the northern Michigan area, spend time with family and friends. So whatever it is that's important to you in retirement to do, you want to spend time thinking about that and planning for that. So you have the freedom to do what you want during your retirement years. I think a big thing to think about once you know what you want to do during your retirement years and how you want to spend them is to figure out how much money you're going to need then to do that. You're obviously no longer receiving a paycheck from an employer once you retire, so you're going to be responsible for coming up with the income that you need in retirement. So when you think through that, and once you know what you want to do, and you know obviously roughly the income you're going to need, you need to look at that in detail. So you have your income needs in retirement, also your expenses. So what are your expenses going to look like in retirement? We believe you can be confident about what your retirement income needs will be and how you're going to meet those needs. Once you retire, you're likely going to pull your income in retirement from a few different places. This could be from your Social Security, pension, investment accounts, rental property, or any other income sources you might have. If you're concerned about your income in retirement, you're not alone. AARP in April 2024 said that 61% of Americans age 50 and up say they worry they'll not have enough money in retirement. The two most common sources of income in retirement are Social Security and your investment accounts. A big common question I get with Social Security is, when should I start drawing Social Security? And there's really not a one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to that. With Social Security, you have factors to consider. This includes your physical health, your marital status, and really your income needs at the time. There are other factors as well to consider. But outside of Social Security, the other common place, as I mentioned earlier, is pulling income from your investment accounts. This could be from your 401k, your 403b, your IRA or brokerage account, and some people will even pulling money from their bank. A mistake I see a lot of clients make is they don't think about their taxes in retirement. Taxes is something that we're all very familiar with now during our working years, but also you're going to have some tax liability when you retire as well. A common question I get is, Virgil, are you able to help me plan to retire well? And the answer is yes. Here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we are focused on financial education, and this is evidenced by the fact that we spent the last decade airing our educational television program all over northern Michigan. In addition to retirement planning at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we offer tax planning, estate planning, 401k rollovers, Social Security planning, Medicare health and life insurance solutions. If you are already retired or you're still working, we'd be happy to meet with you for a complimentary free review. We want you to have the freedom to thrive in retirement. The free review meeting would take about 1 hour, and this 1 hour has the potential to change your financial situation for the rest of your life. You can schedule this complimentary meeting on our website or by calling our office. We look forward to the opportunity to sit down with you so that we can help you plan to retire well.